Hello everyone, welcome back to Clues by Sam. It's Saturday and we have a hard one today. I'm really excited for that. And if you don't know what Clues by Sam is, it's a daily logic puzzle game where you have 20 people on a board. Each of them may be a criminal or an innocent, and you gotta figure out what each person is using the clues that they themselves give you. And I encourage you to try the puzzle, even though it's a hard one. I'm sure you can solve it. There's a link in the description, and it's really fun. We're gonna start right away if you want to just follow along, or if you want some help if you're stuck somewhere. Let's go. We start with Vera telling us that only one of the two innocents to the left of Daniel is Gabe's neighbor. So Daniel has 3 people to the left of him, and 2 of them neighbor Gabe, but only one of those 2 who neighbor Gabe are an innocent. So we know that Anna for sure has to be the second innocent to the left of Daniel. And now Anna tells us that both criminals in row 1 are connected. So since we know that row 1 has 2 innocents here, and now we know that row 1 also has 2 criminals, we couldn't have Betty be a criminal, because if Betty is a criminal, Carl would have to be an innocent, and the second criminal, who would have to be Daniel, wouldn't be connected to the first one. So in that case, we know that both Carl and Daniel are the criminals. They are connected, and Betty is an innocent. And now we don't need these 2 clues anymore. And now Betty tells us that an odd number of innocents on the edges neighbor Tyler. Tyler is down here, and he has 3 people neighboring him on the edges. It might be that all 3 of them are innocent, that's an odd number, or just one of them is an innocent, but we still don't know yet because the clue doesn't tell us about the total, so we're gonna leave that there. Now Carl tells us that Sam and Betty have an equal number of innocent neighbors. So Sam is down here, and he has 8 neighbors total. One of them is Vera, who is innocent, and Betty has 5 neighbors total. Also, one of them is already an innocent. The most innocent neighbors that Betty could have is 4, because of Eve, Frank, and Gabe. But we still don't know how many any of them have, so let's leave that clue there as well. And Daniel tells us now that Nick is one of Tyler's 3 criminal neighbors. So now we know that Nick is a criminal. And we also know that Tyler, who has only 3 people neighboring him on the edges, has 3 criminal neighbors. So what does that tell us? Tyler has 5 neighbors total, which means that if he has 3 criminal neighbors, he has 2 innocent ones. And those 2 innocents are an even number, not an odd number. So we know that on the edges, only 1 innocent could be neighboring him, because if 2 people on the edges were to be neighboring him, then he would have an even number. And where could the second innocent neighbor that he has to have be? It could only be Sam. So Sam has to be an innocent here, and we know there's only 1 more innocent among these 3 people. Now let's look at next clue. 2 of the 3 painters have an innocent directly to the right of them. All of the painters are here. We have Uma, Vera, and Wanda. Vera is already an innocent and to the right of a painter. So we know that we have 1 painter with an innocent to the right of them. Uma is not to the right of anyone, so it doesn't matter what she is. But Wanda, who is also a painter, if she were to be an innocent, we would have our 2 painters with innocents to the right of them. And if Xavier were to be an innocent, then Wanda would be the second painter with an innocent to the right of them. So what does that mean? That these 2 are a one or the other, because if both of them were to be innocent, then we would have 3 painters with innocence to their right. So they have to be one a criminal and the other one an innocent, since there's no other painters who could have people to the right. There's no other painters on the board. Okay. Now Sam tells us that row 4 is the only row with exactly 1 criminal. So then we know that row 5 has one criminal here, who's either gonna be Wanda or Xavier, and row 5 can't have only one criminal. So that means that there has to be one more person in this row who is a criminal. So Uma has to be that criminal here. And now Uma tells us that Sam has exactly 5 criminal neighbors. So now we know the total for Sam. He has 3 innocent neighbors total and 5 criminal neighbors, which means that Betty has 3 innocent neighbors as well. So only one person up here is going to be a criminal. And since we know that only row 4 has a single criminal, and these 3 people are going to have only one criminal among them, row 2 has to have one more criminal, so that has to be K. And K doesn't give us a new clue. So what are we looking at? Oh, we know that Tyler's second innocent neighbor is gonna be here, either Wanda or Xavier, and he has to be a third. He has to have a third criminal neighbor, so that has to be Ollie. No new clues either. What else? So now we know that Sam has to have 1, 2, 3. Sam has to have 2 more criminal neighbors somewhere. Because so far he has 3, either Wanda or Xavier, and Nick and Wally. And we know that row 4 only has 1 criminal. So both criminals needed to complete Sam's total couldn't be in row 4. Only one of them could. And the only place where the second criminal missing could be is here, so Mark has to be a criminal. And Rose and Tyler are one or the other. And now we also know that the single criminal for row 4 is here, which means that Paula is an innocent. And now Paula tells us that exactly one doctor has an innocent directly to the right of them. And those doctors are Eve, Frank, and Sam. There's no other doctors on the board. Yeah. Okay, so we know that Betty is gonna have only one criminal down here. Could it be Eve? It couldn't. Because then if Eve were to be a criminal, then both Frank and Gabe will be innocents, and now we have 2 doctors with innocents to the right of them, which is what the clue tells us that couldn't happen. Only one doctor can have an innocent to the right of them, and it has to be either Eve or Frank. So Eve couldn't be a criminal. Right? Yeah. And these guys are a one or the other, because there has to be a criminal here. And wherever that criminal is, there will be a doctor with an innocent to the right here. So that means that Sam, which is the third doctor, couldn't have an innocent to the right. So Tyler has to be a criminal and Rose has to be an innocent. Now Eve tells us that Betty and Paula have an equal number of innocent neighbors. So we know that Betty has 3 innocent neighbors, which means that Paula has to have 3 as well. So far she has Rose and Vera. Lucy can only be the third one, so Lucy is an innocent. And now Lucy tells us that Carl and Xavier have an equal number of innocent neighbors. Carl is gonna have 2 innocent neighbors, Betty and someone down here. So Xavier has to have 2 as well, and he already has Sam, so Wanda has to be the second one. And because of Wanda, Xavier is a criminal. Now Xavier tells us that there's only one innocent in between Carl and Wanda. And that innocent is Sam. So we know that Gabe couldn't be a second innocent, which means that he's a criminal. And because of him, Frank is an innocent. And we are done. That took me less than 9 minutes. I'm pretty happy with that. All green one for the Saturday. And I enjoyed that a lot. I hope you did too. I'll be back again tomorrow with more clues by Sam Have a great Saturday.